I never thought my life would change dramatically during what was supposed to be a relaxing vacation at the Grand Oasis Resort in Miami. My name is Claire Bennett, a 34-year-old financial analyst from Chicago who had been saving for this luxury getaway for over a year. After a brutal winter and countless overtime hours, I deserved this break. The resort was everything the glossy brochures promised: pristine beaches, infinity pools, and a world-class spa. On my second day, I treated myself to a massage at the resort's renowned wellness center. As I waited in the relaxation lounge, wrapped in a plush robe and sipping cucumber water, I noticed a man in the adjacent seating area. Something about him seemed familiar. It took me a moment to place him, but when he answered his phone, I knew immediately. That voice belonged to Eric Matthews, my boyfriend of 3 years. The man who was supposedly on a crucial business trip in Seattle. The man who had access to my vacation fund account because we had been planning to move in together. I sank, deeper into my chair, pulling the robe tighter around me. Eric hadn't noticed me yet, too engrossed in his conversation. And then I heard it, clear as day. "Yeah, I just transferred the funds. She'll never notice until it's too late," he said with a chuckle that made my blood run cold. The resort comped my stay after I mentioned the Sentinel acquisition, so I'm living it up. By the time she realizes what happened, the shares will have tripled, and I'll be long gone. My hands trembled as I pulled out my phone and checked my bank account. The vacation fund, $15,000 I'd meticulously saved, was gone, with the transfer made that morning. I fought back tears, rage building inside me. This wasn't just any betrayal. This was calculated theft. What Eric didn't know was that I wasn't just any financial analyst. I specialized in corporate acquisitions and had worked on similar deals to the one he'd mentioned, Sentinel Hotels. It was supposed to be confidential information that Oasis International was acquiring their smaller competitor, and apparently, Eric was using my money to invest in shares before the news went public. I slipped out of the spa before he could spot me, my massage forgotten. Back in my room, I paced the floor, my mind racing. I could confront him, call the police, or cry myself to sleep. None of those options would recover my money or heal my broken heart. Then it hit me. I had something Eric didn't. Legitimate inside knowledge of the hotel industry from my work as an analyst. I'd recently researched Oasis International for a client and knew things about their financial structure that weren't public knowledge. Eric was making a blind bet with my money, but I could make an informed one. I called my best friend and fellow analyst, Zoe, who answered on the second ring. "Claire, aren't you supposed to be getting pampered right now?" she asked. "Plans changed," I replied, my voice steadier than I expected. "I need your help with something." Within an hour, Zoe had helped me set up a new trading account. I used my emergency savings, another $10,000 I'd been keeping for a rainy day. Well, it was pouring. Now, that evening, I sat on my balcony watching the sunset over the ocean, laptop open, making calculated moves based on my knowledge of the industry. Eric might have stolen my vacation fund, but he had inadvertently given me valuable information. The Sentinel acquisition wasn't the only play here. There were related companies whose stocks would be affected. As the sky turned from orange to deep purple, I finalized my investments. My hands were steady now, my mind clear. This wasn't just about revenge. It was about justice and reclaiming what was rightfully mine. I ordered room service, a bottle of champagne, and toasted to new beginnings. Tomorrow, I would enjoy that spa treatment. And when the markets opened on Monday, I would watch carefully as my plan unfolded. Little did I know that this was just the beginning of my transformation. What started as a desperate move to recover stolen money would become the first step toward building an empire of my own. The acquisition news broke Monday morning, just as I was finishing breakfast on my ocean view balcony. My phone buzzed continuously with notifications from my trading app. The stocks were soaring. Not just Sentinels, but all the strategic investments I'd made in related companies. I took a sip of coffee, watching the numbers climb. By noon, my initial investment had already doubled, but I wasn't done. While Eric had only seen the obvious play, buying Sentinel shares before the acquisition, I had recognized the bigger picture. The hospitality industry was consolidating, and this was just one move in a larger chess game. I called Zoe again. "It's happening exactly as we predicted," I told her. "So what's your next move?" she asked. I could hear the smile in her voice. "I'm staying another week," I replied. "There's more to do here." I extended my reservation and changed rooms to avoid running into Eric. My new suite was even more luxurious, with a private plunge pool and direct beach access. If I was going to plot my financial revenge, I might as well do it in style. Over the next few days, I divided my time between enjoying the resort amenities and expanding my investment strategy. I attended a business mixer in the hotel's conference center, introducing myself as a financial consultant. Nobody questioned my presence. A woman in a well-cut suit with confidence radiating from every pore belonged anywhere she chose to be. At that mixer, I met Vivian Rodriguez, a board member of Oasis International. We connected over martinis and discussions about market trends, neither of us revealing too much about our specific interests. "You have good instincts," she told me, as we exchanged business cards. "Most people don't see the patterns until it's too late." "I've always believed in looking beyond the obvious," I replied, thinking of Eric's short-sighted plan. Back in my room that night, I researched Vivian and discovered she was more influential than she'd let on. She was leading the restructuring committee after the Sentinel acquisition. I had unwittingly made a valuable connection. By Friday, my investments had tripled in value. I sold some positions to secure profits, but held on to others that showed promise for long-term growth. The money Eric had stolen from me was now a distant concern. I'd made that back many times over. That evening, as I walked along the beach at sunset, I spotted a familiar figure ahead. Eric was sitting at the resort's beachfront bar, laughing with a woman I didn't recognize. For a moment, anger flared within me, but it quickly subsided, replaced by something more powerful: indifference. I walked right past them, head held high, and took a seat at the opposite end of the bar. When the bartender asked for my order, I requested their finest champagne. "Celebrating something?" he asked as he presented the bottle. "You could say that," I replied. "A new chapter." I noticed Eric doing a double take when he finally saw me. His face paled, and he whispered something to his companion. I raised my glass in their direction, a small smile playing on my lips, before turning my attention to the sunset. My phone buzzed with an email from Vivian. "Claire, I've been thinking about our conversation. My team could use someone with your perspective. Are you available for breakfast tomorrow?" As I typed my reply, accepting her invitation, I realized something profound had shifted within me. What had begun as a desperate attempt to recover stolen money had evolved into something much bigger. I wasn't just getting even. I was leveling up. The next morning, over breakfast with Vivian, I learned that Oasis International was looking to expand their financial analysis team following the acquisition. They needed someone who understood both the numbers and the nuances of the hospitality industry. "We've been impressed with some of your recent market moves," Vivian said, stirring her coffee. "It takes special insight to anticipate shifts the way you did." I nearly choked on my croissant. "You've been tracking my investments?" She smiled. "In this business, we notice when someone makes the right calls at the right time. It's a talent we value." By the end of breakfast, I had a job offer as a senior financial strategist for Oasis International, with a salary that made my analyst position look like pocket change, plus stock options that would give me a meaningful stake in the company. As I walked back to my room, my phone buzzed with a text from Eric. "We need to talk. Meet me in the lobby?" I replied with 3 words: nothing to discuss. Then I called Zoe to share the news. "Looks like I'm not coming back to Chicago," I told her. "At least not right away." Claire Bennett, hotel mogul in the making, she laughed. Who would have thought your vacation would end like this? Who indeed? Certainly not the man who had underestimated me so severely. As I packed my bags to move from the resort to a company apartment Vivian had arranged, I felt no regret, only anticipation for what was coming next. 3 years passed in what felt like both an eternity and the blink of an eye. My position at Oasis International had evolved from senior financial strategist to director of acquisitions, and, finally, to chief investment officer. My office overlooked the Miami coastline, a daily reminder of where this journey had begun. Under my guidance, Oasis had expanded aggressively, acquiring boutique hotels across North America and beginning to venture into European markets. Each acquisition was strategic, building a diverse portfolio that catered to different demographics while maintaining the luxury standards the brand was known for. My personal portfolio had grown exponentially as well. The stock options from my initial contract had vested, giving me significant equity in the company. I'd also continued my personal investments, focusing on real estate and technology startups that complemented the hospitality industry. Zoe had joined me in Miami 6 months after I took the job, heading up our market research department. Together, we'd transformed how Oasis evaluated potential acquisitions, creating a data-driven approach that minimized risk and maximized returns. Have you seen this? Zoe asked one morning, dropping a business magazine on my desk during our weekly strategy meeting. The cover featured a familiar face, Eric. The headline read, "Rising Star Falls Hard, Matthews Hospitality Files for Bankruptcy." I picked up the magazine, skimming the article. After our breakup, Eric had apparently used his insider knowledge and ill-gotten gains to start a small chain of boutique hotels. Initial success had led to overexpansion, and now his company was collapsing under poor management and excessive debt. "Karma works in mysterious ways," Zoe remarked, taking a seat across from me. I set the magazine aside. It's not karma, it's consequence. He never understood the difference between making money and building something sustainable. Later that day, I presented a proposal to our executive board. Matthews Hospitality has 3 properties that align with our portfolio strategy, I explained, displaying slides showing financial projections. Despite their current management issues, the locations are prime, and the properties themselves have potential. We can acquire them at bankruptcy prices and rebrand them within our new urban luxury line. Vivian, now our CEO, studied me carefully. This wouldn't be personal, would it, Claire? I met her gaze steadily. Business is always personal, Vivian, but that doesn't mean it isn't also logical. These acquisitions make sense regardless of who currently owns them. The board approved my proposal unanimously. Within weeks, we were in negotiations to acquire the remains of Eric's failed venture, pennies on the dollar for properties that would complement our existing portfolio perfectly. The day we closed the deal, I visited the flagship Matthews property in downtown Chicago. It was strange walking through the lobby, seeing the remnants of what Eric had tried to build. There was potential here, buried under mismanagement and grandiose visions that had never aligned with market realities. As I inspected the property, a familiar figure emerged from the management offices. Eric looked older, tired, his confident swagger replaced by the slumped shoulders of defeat. He stopped short when he saw me. "Claire," he said, his voice a mixture of surprise and resignation. "I should have known you'd be behind this." "Hello, Eric," I replied calmly. "Just doing my final walkthrough before the rebranding begins." He shook his head, a bitter laugh escaping him. "You know, I always underestimated you. Even after you became some hotshot executive, I never thought you'd come for my hotels." "I didn't come for your hotels, Eric," I corrected him. "I recognize their value despite your mismanagement. There's a difference." "So what happens now?" he asked, gesturing around the lobby. "You tear down everything with my name on it?" I consulted my tablet, where the transition plan was displayed. "The rebranding starts tomorrow. As for you, The terms of the acquisition included a 6-month consulting contract to ensure a smooth transition. If you're interested, the offer stands. If not, your severance package is quite generous. The shock on his face was worth every moment of the past 3 years. You're offering me a job? Working for you? I'm offering you a chance to learn from your mistakes, I clarified. Whether you take it is entirely up to you. I left him standing, in the lobby, contemplating the irony of the situation. The man who had stolen my vacation fund was now being offered a lifeline by the woman he'd underestimated so severely. That evening, as my private jet took off from Chicago back to Miami, I reflected on the journey that had brought me here. What had begun with betrayal and heartbreak had transformed into something I never could have imagined. An empire built on determination, strategic thinking, and the unexpected opportunity that had come from that moment in a resort spa. My phone buzzed with a message from Vivian. Board loved your 5-year expansion plan. Green light for the Asian market entry next quarter. Congratulations, Claire. I smiled, watching the Chicago skyline recede below me. Eric had stolen my money, but he'd inadvertently given me something far more valuable, the push I needed to discover my true potential. In trying to take advantage of me, he'd set in motion the creation of something much bigger than either of us had ever dreamed possible. As the plane climbed through the clouds, I opened my laptop to review our next potential acquisition. There was always another opportunity on the horizon, another challenge to overcome, another level to reach. And now, I had the confidence, resources, and vision to seize them all.